You face excommunication from the church. You have committed heresies against the church. Do you take back what you have written?
No.
Martin Luther, you are hereby excommunicated from the church.
The split from traditional views fueled European innovations, caused Western Europe to gain popularity from surrounding regions, and boosted Western economy, making them more powerful. During the Middle Ages, there was an agricultural focus for the majority of the population, most of whom were peasants. The system of distributing power to vassals and peasant loyalty to local lords was called feudalism. The people whose lives were too often cut short by tragedy were anxious to find security for their life in heaven. The church began a system where worldly wealth and possessions could buy freedom from purgatory and a path to salvation. The church's economic focus, rather than that of spiritual life, sparked what would be known in history as a Protestant Revolution. The source of the revolution was a young Roman Catholic monk called Martin Luther, who spoke out against the church. Most famously, he wrote a document called the 95 Theses and posted it on the door of All Saints Church in Saxony.
Martin Luther, you have very innovative ideas concerning the Roman Catholic Church. Would you please elaborate on them?
I believe that demanding Christians to pay for their salvation is wrong, when one should be focused on one's spiritual relationship with God. Pope Leo X only started the sale of indulgences to pay for St. Peter's Basilica Cathedral, not to help Christians find their salvation.
Some would suggest that with the 95 Theses that you posted on the church door started a revolution.
Starting a revolution, if it means the reformation of the Catholic Church, would have been worthwhile, for no one should have to pay for the free gift of God, the forgiveness of sins. I was taught by Jodocus Truffiter that I should question even the greatest of thinkers and explore the ideas myself, which is precisely what I believe I have done in the Catholic Church.
It was the tradition of the Catholic Church to send select bishops on a journey to raise money through selling indulgences. The bishops were able to keep a portion of the profit from selling indulgences for their own personal use. The bishop who first propelled Martin Luther to write his 95 Theses was named John Tetzel.
I honestly don't understand why Martin Luther refuses to see the value in indulgences. It's an excellent opportunity for people who want to see their family in the kingdom of heaven. As soon as a coin in the coiffer rings, a soul from purgatory springs. That's what I always say.
By the year 1517, the year Martin Luther first began his expedition against the church, Prince Frederick III of Saxony had already built up the largest collection of relics in Europe, amounting to over 19,000.
I have so many relics that one can pay to venerate to secure their safe passage into heaven. Some of these relics include vials of milk from the Virgin Mary, a body of one of the innocents massacred by King Herod himself, and straw from the very manger where Jesus was born, which is my most prized possession.
Inevitably, it came to the attention of the church that Martin Luther was being outspoken against their practices. The church tried to dismiss Martin Luther, but soon realized that they would have to address these accusations due to his reigning popularity in the north.
Young Martin Luther has been exceptionally bold writing the 95 Theses and all. I am afraid he just does not understand the finer workings of the church. I have arranged for him to be brought before the Inquisition in Rome for a trial. We will set the record straight there, or he may find himself meeting Judgment Day far sooner than he expected. Martin Luther, you have been brought before us here today on account of committing heresies against the church. Before us are a number of documents. Do you admit to writing these documents?
Yes.
Do you still stand behind the ideas taught in these documents, knowing that they oppose the views of the Holy Roman Catholic Church? Do you recant?
I will not recant them.
You face excommunication from the church. You have committed heresies against the church. Do you take back what you have written?
No.
Martin Luther, you are hereby excommunicated from the church.
On January 3, 1521, Pope Leo excommunicated Martin Luther from the church. The repercussions of Luther's actions on the Roman Catholic Church were substantial. Due to the widespread popularity of Lutheranism, the Catholic Church lost a significant amount of its previous followers. As a result, the Church lost much of its political influence, especially in Northern Europe. The Catholic Church's inability to control northern regions allowed for Martin Luther to once again spread his teachings without prosecution.
Martin Luther is entirely too outspoken. And while I do believe the church needs to be reformed in a moral sense, I still stand fully behind the Pope. I also have taken actions towards the Reformation, translating the Bible into Latin vestige and out. However, I have done it from within the church. I try to see reason in what I do. Martin Luther, on the other hand, does exactly the opposite of reason, for he believes that associating reason in matters of the Lord is simply next to sin. Martin Luther and I have no connection in our beliefs, I assure you of that.
I believe that Martin Luther did the right thing by not recanting his writings. Us reformers have worked much too hard for our ideas to be dismissed and mocked. I hope that Martin Luther puts an end to papacy once and for all.
Preceding the Reformation of the Catholic Church, Europe was plagued with war and conflict. Between the years of 1618 and 1648, wars raged between almost every major power in Europe. Most conflicts were centered on differing opinions on religion and theology.
I've been fighting for almost 20 years now. In the beginning, the war was between Catholics and the Protestant beliefs. I don't believe anymore. Now, it's between the French and the Habsburg.
We've been fighting since 1618, and I haven't seen my family in years. I hope they come to an agreement soon. Their political quarrels are none of our concern, and our Spanish armies have been weakened. I'm starting to doubt King Philip's leadership.
The conflict known as the 30 Years' War had devastating effects on European politics, economy, and culture. Germany was desolated, disease and famine reduced its population significantly. This time also saw the fall of papacy in its entirety, dividing Europe between Protestants and Catholics.
Am Wochenende habe ich viel gemacht. Zuerst habe ich ein Eis gehabt, dann bin ich im Kino gewesen und habe einen Film gesehen. Die nächste Woche bin ich geschwommen, Herr ist auch mitgekommen, diese bis zur Ampel gekommen gewesen. Ja.
Political changes in Northern Europe included a division of Germany, decreasing its size, as well as acknowledging the independence of Dutch Republic and Switzerland. The independence of separate nations allowed for new economic development and strengthened the European economy.
I personally believe that the fall of the Holy Roman Empire was a positive thing, because rulers, like myself, now have more control over our nations. Furthermore, I no longer need permission from the Pope to make treaties or important decisions. Even though I lost some of my northern territory to France in the agreement, I believe Europe is better off without the Pope in control.
Due to the fall of Constantinople, the trade routes were forced to change from land to water. The countries along water routes, especially the ocean, began to trade more, which led to their economy being boosted. As a result of the economy being boosted, the countries could send explorers and search for routes to China and to explore the rest of the world. Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492. Mayflower, Santa Maria, La Nina, and La Pinta are the most commonly known he sailed. Marco Polo sailed in the 13th century. He sailed Maffeo, Niccolo, and Marco Polo. Juan Ponce de Leon, who was Spanish, sailed in the 15th century and was the first explorer to set foot in Florida.
After the King of Portugal refused to fund my voyage of exploration, I was very grateful for King Ferdinand III and Queen Isabella for doing so. I am very confident that I can find a trade route to Asia. After Constantinople fell, we could not use the Silk Roads for trade, so I felt that finding an ocean trade route would be the only way to keep trade alive. I believe that ocean trade is the future of commerce.
My name is Marco Polo.
Marco?
Polo. I traveled to Asia only once, but spent 24 years there. When I returned to Venice, I was captured and put into jail for a long time. I strongly encouraged the European exploration into Asia, which I helped to overall expand the empire. Yes, I did, yes. I inspired Columbus to find shorter trade routes to Asia, and of course brought back many riches from China, which, provided the cultural blending. And Marco Polo.
After conquering the lands of Granada, my husband, King Ferdinand III, and I found ourselves in economic struggle. We hired Christopher Columbus to find a sea route to Asia for trade, for Constantinople had been cut off, and we were no longer able to use the Silk Road.
Due to commercialization between separate states, the economy flourished. States united to form a stronger base for supporting war funds, and the economy in Europe flourished. This led to their ability to expand relations with other regions and explore new land. Money was used to support explorers like Christopher Columbus and his voyage to the Americas, in order to further expand Western power. Until 1500, scientific thought reflected Aristotelian worldviews, which showed that science was primarily a branch of religion. After the Reformation, Europeans began to reject that way of thought. People developed a new conception of the universe based on natural laws, not on the laws of God. This new and critical way of looking at things led to the scientific revolution, which was the emergence of modern science and promoted developments in math, physics, astronomy, and other areas of science. Nicholas Copernicus was born in 1473 when science was controlled entirely by the Church. Copernicus led a privileged life, and after his father died, his uncle, a bishop, saw that he was educated. It was in the bishop's house after his uncle's death when he first began experimenting with scientific theories.
I have to admit, in the beginning, I did not want to publish my findings of the sun, in fact, being the center of the orbit, and risk being scorned by the incomprehensibility and novelty of my thesis. Despite everyone wanting me to publish my books, I will not do it until my dying day.
There were many great minds that went into fueling the scientific revolution. Isaac Newton, who was the first man to conceive the idea of gravity, was instrumental in the religion-based science to experimental-based science change.
I say that this apple fell onto my head, as if it was pulled by an invisible force. I must go ponder this. I discovered this new concept called gravity. It is making Europe so powerful that everyone wants to be us, and now they're eating out of the palm of our hands.
Isaac Newton ruined my plan to make universities into religious institutes. I don't understand why he doesn't want young people to learn the devout ways of a Catholic. He is too focused on his insignificant science research to understand that this type of knowledge will lead to nothing, and that a non-religious person can do nothing of the station.
I believe that Caprician is the only way to view science. Capricius himself was a very intellectual human being who viewed that the sun was the center of the orbit, not the earth as Aristotle primitively viewed it. Anyway, this is my telescope, which can view stars from millions of miles away.
These new scientific inquiries led to important intellectual discoveries. These discoveries contributed to the advancement of the European world. François-Marie Arouet, also known as Voltaire, was an Enlightenment writer known for opposing the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church, and he was credited with the ideas of freedom of religion, expression, and the idea of separation between church and state.
You continue to produce pieces of literature that are going against the church, even though you are breaking the censorship laws. Why is that?
Considering I am a satirical polemicist, it is in my nature to do such things. I like to write emphasizing customs, achievements of the social history of the arts and sciences, although it may be breaking tradition of narrating military, diplomatic events. So bad.
As a result from the newfound interest in science and understanding, Europeans began questioning the political powers of the Church and started to expand their possibilities of governance. The new age of the Enlightenment brought opposition to traditional religious dogma and began a movement towards reasoning and individualism. Philosophers began to explore human nature and scientific thought, which gave way to a separation from the Church doctrines and traditions.
I believe that man begins his life with a clean slate, that knowledge and identity are only accumulated by experience. I use empiricism for a way to look at life, and knowledge only comes from sensory experience.
During the period of 1450 to 1750 AD, many things changed throughout Europe and the rest of the world, resulting in a power shift that thrust Europe into the spotlight, starting with the split from traditional European views during the Reformation. When people, namely Martin Luther, began to question the authority and practices of the Holy Roman Catholic Church, leading into the age of exploration due to the shift in trade routes, European economy boosted, which led to the funding of exploration. The scientific revolution was another impactful change that caused people from all around the world to look up to Europe and its extremely innovative and new scientific discoveries and thought. And such admiration brought Europe even more influence and power. Lastly, the Enlightenment. This phenomenon was almost like a continuation of the scientific revolution, in that new ways of thinking and philosophies caused Europe to gain popularity from surrounding regions. Due to the combined efforts of the scientific revolution, outspoken reformists, and open-minded monarchs, the West became the center of economy, intellect, and innovation.
When I returned to Venice, I strongly encouraged the European exploration into Asia. What is wrong with you? Why are you looking at me like that? But I'm like, and then I'll just twirl you, and then I'll be like, dip! Getting paper.